What's up, sisters? This is your boy, Beef, and welcome back to the channel. I hope y'all are having a fantastic day, because today we have a really fun build using the Mystic class, Order of the Unbound, to create an insanely chaotic, darkness-fueled Selunite Mystic. Before we get into it, thank you so much for watching. If you like Baldur's Gate 3 mods, drop a like on the video and subscribe for more content like this. And don't forget to let me know your thoughts about this build in the comments down below. Without further ado, let's get right into the build. So this build is based on the Swords of the Lady, also called the Lunatics in Forgotten Realms lore. Members of this order were highly devoted to Seluna, and even included mystics among their ranks, so this build is super lore friendly. I wanted to give a big shout out to subscriber Micah Angelo for requesting a build based on this order, because I had a ton of fun building this character out. The Lunatics are referred to as such because their personalities were pretty strange and eccentric, and many people thought they were legitimately insane, suffering from quote-unquote lunacy. When threats from Shar arose, however, these warriors acted ruthlessly to defeat the forces of the Night Singer. These warriors dressed in all white, only their eyes showing, with symbols of the moon emblazoned on their armor. This character is going to traverse the darkness and serve as a guiding light while channeling the powers of the moon to blind and massively damage our enemies. If this sounds familiar to you Marvel fans, it reminds me a lot of Moonlit. Moonlit serves an Egyptian moon god, Khonshu, wears all white armor, and has unpredictable eccentricities as a result of mental illness. So in a way, this is both a Lunatics build and also a Marvel Moonlit build. I've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals lately, and Moonlit has been my favorite duelist, so this was a build that I really enjoyed putting together. But that is more than enough context, let's dive into the build itself. Starting at level 1, we are speccing into the Mystic class and taking the Order of the Unbound. This is the wild magic subclass of the Mystic, which adds into the chaos and unpredictability of this build. It works more or less the same as the wild magic sorcerer, but instead of rolling a wild magic effect, you take a hidden roll on the wild psionics table, which includes over 50 effects from the psionic disciplines list. Sometimes you'll get damage resistance, sometimes you'll accidentally summon a hostile intellect devourer, sometimes you'll grant every nearby creature an extra action. There are 50 different effects that can happen when you trigger one of these psionic surges. For our psionic talents, we're going to be starting with Mind Thrust and Mystic Hand. Mind Thrust is a fantastic damaging cantrip that does 1d10 psychic damage on an intelligence save, and Mystic Hand allows us to throw objects with our minds directly from our inventory. For our base level Mystic Discipline, we're going to scroll down and start with the Mastery of Stars. This discipline will give us access to some celestial-themed radiant abilities, although we only start with the first ones of each discipline and learn more as we level up. The Psychic Focus that we get from this discipline allows us to gain resistance to radiant damage, which is fun but not entirely useful since radiant damage isn't incredibly common in Baldur's Gate 3. We do, however, get Astral Mote, which is kind of like Guiding Bolt, light. When we spend one psi point, this ability does 1d8 radiant damage and it grants advantage on the next attack roll against the creature. So you get less damage than Guiding Bolt, but same advantage bonus. As we level up, we can upcast this ability to do additional d8s of damage, which is nice. So it can eventually surpass Guiding Bolt. We're also eventually going to get Moonlight, an ability which prevents enemies within 18 meters of our character from going invisible. This is helpful against NPCs like Auntie Ethel and eventually the ballists in the city sewers. We'll also eventually get access to Sunburst, which costs 5 psi points and is kind of like Flame Strike from the cleric spell list, doing 66 fire damage in a big AoE using a dex save, but also blinding creatures caught in the blast. No save on that, just insta-blinded by the power of sunlight. Any creatures sensitive to sunlight take an additional 2d6 of fire damage and will have disadvantage on the dex save, so vampires mostly will be very easy targets for this spell. We're also going to get Star Rail, which allows us to place down a big area of effect on the ground, kind of like Wall of Fire, but instead of doing damage, it creates a pathway where creatures can move literally infinitely, no movement speed required. But while in the area, you can't take actions or bonus actions or reactions. You can only move. This is a fun utility mostly and lets you move your party around the battlefield really fast if you start combat far from your enemies. The key with this is to pop the rail open, and then you can go as far as you want and just step out of it and do an action and then step back in and come back. We're also going to get Starstorm, which is basically our ultimate ability. With this psionic, we create a large area of effect that does 4d10 radiant damage to creatures caught in the storm, makes the area difficult terrain, and reveals invisible creatures. This is kind of like our version of Insect Plague or the reverse version of Hunger of Hadar. So with this ability, we can say, "The moon haunts you." For our subclass psionic discipline, we're going to grab the Mastery of Light and Darkness. The focus here grants us immunity to magical and non-magical darkness, which will be our primary focus. We also get access to an ability which allows us to cast a Cloud of Darkness without concentration for 3 turns, and as we upcast it, we can make the area of effect larger. At its smallest, we have a 3-meter radius, and at its peak size, we can create a darkness cloud with a 20-meter radius, which is absolutely enormous. Because we don't have to concentrate on this ability, and we only need to keep track of how long it's been since we cast it, our primary strategy is going to involve creating an area of darkness, standing inside it so our enemies can't see us while we can see straight through it, and then we blast them with the concentrated power of the moon. You also get a unique light ability, which allows you to concentrate on making an enemy glow, making them unable to hide and granting advantage on attack rolls against them. I don't have too many use cases for this one, but it can come in handy at times. Shadow Beast allows us to summon 2 shadowy dogs that can see invisibility and do damage, but it is concentration and kinda meh, so We also get Radiant Beam, which is a single target, 66 radiant damage that blinds the target. It is also a concentration spell to maintain the blind effect, so that can be nice for a boss fight primarily. For our ability scores, we want to prioritize Intelligence and Constitution. Intelligence is our primary ability, so this will increase damage output from our spells and increase our hit chance, so we're going to start with a 16 in Intelligence. 16 is also what we're going to go for Constitution for the extra HP and concentration boost. Since we're going to be wearing heavy armor, we want a 14 in Dexterity for our max +2 to armor class, and the also +2 in our initiative. We're also going to be taking 2 levels of Cleric for this build, so we're going to want to take Wisdom to 12 in case we need to cast a spell from that, and for the saving throws. We're also going to be dumping our Strength and Charisma at 8s, because we don't really need them that much yet. For our skill proficiencies, you can go with pretty much whatever you want. I'm going to take just some utilities here. We're going to go with Perception, and Religion, Investigation, and Arcana. I think those match up well. No, wait, Investigation, no Arcana. But that does it for level 1, so let's move on to level 2. So speaking of Cleric dips, at level 2, we are going to immediately switch over to the Cleric class and take our first level of the Twilight domain. This subclass is available through mods for PC and console, and more than anything is going to give us access to the Cleric of Selunite dialogue options in the game. That said, it's also going to give us the ability to see in the dark up to 60 meters, which is absolutely busted. Even more busted, we can use the Bestow Eyes of Night ability to pass that dark vision onto our party. This isn't magical darkness, however, so that's a challenge to overcome if you want to park your allies inside the darkness too. Big heads up. We also get a +3 bonus to our initiative that we can pass on to our allies as well. So this is a really powerful Cleric dip that is just going to make this character even more insane. We're going to get 2 domain spells, being Fairy Fire and Sleep, which are nice to have. Because we only have a 12 in Wisdom, we don't want to take a bunch of cantrips or spells that rely on that stat for attack rolls or save DC or anything. So for our Cleric cantrips, we're going to be taking Guidance, Light, and Blade Ward. Guidance is the best cantrip in the game and just gives us a nice 1d4 bonus to ability checks whenever we need it. Light is going to allow us to imbue something with light, easy peasy, and Blade Ward is just, it's Blade Ward. Cleric Deity, we're going with Selunite, obviously. For our spells, we're going to be taking Bless and Healing Word. Bless is really powerful. It's Bless. It gives you a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws to 3 allies in the area. And Healing Word is just really nice to be able to pop a little bit of extra healing with our bonus action at the beginning of the game, because that 1d4 +1 healing is pretty nice at the beginning. Twilight Cleric is also going to give us proficiency with heavy armor, shields, and martial weapons, which is really freaking sweet and is going to make this build even more strong. At level 3, we're taking our second level of Cleric so we can grab our Channel Divinity ability. For Twilight Clerics, this gives us Twilight Sanctuary, which allows us to create a bubble around ourselves that gives our allies 6 temporary hit points whenever they end their turn inside of it. If we cast our Darkness, then pop our Twilight Sanctuary, we can turn our bubble of darkness into a true Twilight Sanctuary. And for our third and final Cleric spell, I am going to add in Guiding Bolt, just so we have a few extra casts of it if we want. We're not going to be having a super high chance with our 12 Wisdom, but it's always nice to have Guiding Bolt at our disposal if we want it. And now we are done with our Cleric levels. We are all Mystic all the way through the rest. At level 4, we go back to Mystic level 2 and get our permanent Detect Thoughts through Telepathy and our Mystical Recovery. Not much else, so we'll move up to level 5. At level 5, we reach Mystic level 3 and get our first Wild Psionics ability. Psionic Battery makes it so that every time we trigger a Wild Psionic, we regain 1 psi point. Additionally, we get
Chaos Control!
For all you Shadow the Hedgehog fans, Chaos Control basically allows us to choose the likelihood of triggering a Wild Psionic event. We can set it to a 0% chance, a 10% chance like normal with a DC 19 or 20, a 40% chance on a DC 13 save, a 70% chance, which is a DC 7, or a legit 100% chance. What this means is that we have the ability to cause a random chaotic effect every single time that we use a psionic ability, and we will also regenerate a psi point. So if you turn it up to 100% and just use single point abilities, you can basically just cast infinitely and pump out tons of chaotic effects everywhere. You won't know what's going to happen, your allies won't know what's going to happen, your enemies won't know what's going to happen. It is total chaos and beyond insane. We also get to pick a new psionic talent, and we're going to be taking Beacon. This is kind of like the light cantrip, but allows us to imbue ourselves with light, not just our weapon. We can literally become the light that breaks through the darkness of the night. For our psionic discipline, we're going to be scrolling down and taking the mastery of wood and earth, oddly enough. The psychic focus here will grant us a +1 to our armor class, which is nice, but not necessary. The main reason that we want this discipline is for the ability Animate Weapon, which is basically a force-based range smite attack. You telekinetically launch your weapon at your foes, making an attack roll and doing full weapon damage plus 1d8 of force damage per psi point. This doesn't count as a ranged weapon attack or a thrown attack. This counts as a melee weapon attack and also a ranged spell attack. We also get access to some other cool abilities like a weapon drop, another ability which makes your enemies AC drop massively, a wall of wood, an armored form which grants you physical resistances, and an earth elemental summon. But like I said, the main reason that we want this mastery of wood and earth is for our ranged animate weapon. This is going to allow us to stay inside of our darkness and still do melee damage at range, and also just add 1d8 force damage as for every psi point that we spend. At level 6, we get Mystic level 4 for Strength of Mind and a new feat. Strength of Mind allows us to choose a specific stat to gain proficiency in a saving throw of our choice. You could choose whatever you want here. I'm generally going to go with Constitution or Dexterity or Wisdom because they are pretty common saving throws to have to endure. And for our feat, I'm taking an ability score improvement for a +2 to our Intelligence. At level 7 and Mystic level 5, we pick a new discipline. Since we can now spend 5 psi points at one time, we're going to be taking Celerity. This discipline will give us some extra movement abilities, but more than anything will give us access to Surge of Action, so we can do some absolutely nasty burst damage. Surge of Action basically gives us Action Surge that costs 5 psi points, and we can do it as often as we want, as long as we have psi points to fuel it. You also get access to Psychic Focus Celerity, which increases your movement speed by 3 meters. We get Rapid Step, quicken your steps, increasing your movement speed by 3 meters. On a bonus action with psi points, we get Agile Defense, we get Blur of Motion, and Surge of Speed, but the main thing that we want here is the Action Surge. At level 8 and Mystic level 6, we get our next subclass feature. Chaos Aspect makes it so that not only do we trigger Wild Psionics, but our allies' actions can trigger them as well. This is a toggleable passive for us, so we can choose whether we want total chaos or just a little bit of total chaos. At level 9 and Mystic level 7, we get the ability to spend 6 psi points at once. Since we can do this, we're going to choose Transcendent Form as our new psionic discipline. The main reason that we want Transcendent Form is because we can get access to Psychic Brand. This ability allows us to bump any of our stats that we want to a 19, and for this build I'm going to be using Strength for our animate weapon attacks, since our weapon of choice will scale with Strength. If you really wanted to, you could just feed this character strength potions, but I prefer not to, so Psychic Brand is a fantastic pick here with the Transcendent Form. At level 10 and Mystic level 8, we get our Psionic Strike, which adds 1d8 of psychic damage to our weapon attacks, Animate Weapon included. For our next feat, you guessed it, we're taking an ability score improvement for another +2 to our Intelligence so we can top ourselves off at 20. If you took the Hag's Hair for intelligence on this character, you could start with a 17 and only need 1 ability score improvement to get to 20, and take another feat instead. That said, there aren't any that I'm dying to grab otherwise. Feats as a whole are kind of lackluster in 5th edition, so ASIs are usually the best option. Alert is always good, but we also have a +3 initiative boost from our cleric subclass, so we're going to go with the intelligence score improvement here. At level 11 and Mystic level 9, we get to make our last choice of a psionic discipline. You can take pretty much whatever you want here. Nomadic Step is always great because it gives us access to a bunch of teleports. It's kind of like Misty Step and Dimension Door and all of those things if you want to. Psionic Skirmishing is also good if you want to get the ability Psionic Alacrity for extra attack when enemies come in melee range, or also at range with our animate weapon. That's actually the one I'm going to take, but you can always do whichever you like. And finally, at level 12 and Mystic level 10, we get access to Consumptive Power, which lets us sacrifice 7 HP to restore 7 psi points. Not bad, but not great either. We also get to choose a new cantrip, and you can take pretty much whatever you want here. I'm going to take Delusion because it's kind of like the Mystic version of Minor Illusion. But that takes care of the leveling for this character, so let's pop out and look at some of the really cool gear and equipment that makes this character really come to life. So this build has a really unique combination of items to be able to use to stack and kind of create our dream Moonlight. Because we are using spell attack rolls and spell save DCs for the vast majority of our attacks, we want to stack items that will help give us bonuses in that regard. So for our hood, we're going to use the Hood of the Weave, which gives us a +2 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. For our cloak, we're going to use the Cloak of Protection, which will give us a +1 to our armor class and our saving throws, which will just help us to not take damage. For our gloves, we're going to use the Luminous Gloves. When the wearer deals radiant damage, the target receives 2 turns of Radiating Orb. Because we're doing radiant damage pretty much all the time, we're going to be passing out Radiating Orbs from within our darkness. So we're going to sit in the darkness and pass out Radiating Orbs and just make constellations everywhere, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Additionally, we're going to pair that with the Coruscation Ring. When the wearer deals spell damage while illuminated by a light source, they also inflict Radiating Orb upon the target for 2 turns. What this means for us is that when we use our Beacon cantrip to infuse ourselves with white light, we will now be illuminated. Always. So because we are illuminated, we are always going to be doing that Radiating Orb upon targets for 2 turns. So this ring in combination with the Luminous Gloves is going to apply 4 turns of Radiating Orb to any enemy that we do with a ranged spell attack using radiant damage, which is going to be the vast majority of our spell attacks. Because we're going to be standing in darkness, we're going to use the Ring of Twilight, which gives us Treader by Twilight. You gain a +1 bonus to armor class while obscured. We're pretty much always going to be dealing our damage from within our own darkness, so we're always going to be obscured, and we're just going to get a nice +1 boost to our armor class. For our amulet, we're going to use the Amulet of the Devout. You gain a +2 bonus to your spell save DC, and you also gain additional use of Channel Divinity. Once used, it is restored upon taking a long rest. So because we are a cleric that is only level 2, we're only going to get access naturally to 1 Channel Divinity. What this is going to do is allow us to have a second one, just so we have more uses of our Twilight Sanctuary throughout the day, and also give us a +2 to our spell save DC. And for our boots, we're going to be using the Evasive Shoes, which give us a +1 to acrobatics, but more importantly, a +1 to our armor class. This is just going to give us even more tankiness so that we don't get hit as often. For our weapon, I have selected the Sacred Star. On a hit, inflict 1 turn of Radiating Orb upon the target. This is going to allow us to stack Radiating Orbs with our melee attacks and our ranged melee attacks, which is really nice. Has Sanctified Weapon. Undead creatures struck by this weapon will possibly be turned. There aren't too many undead creatures in Act 3 other than Mystic Carrion and Cazador and crew, so this is not super useful for that specific ability, but when you are in those places, it's nice to have them. However, this weapon also does a 1d4 of radiant damage with every attack, so that's really nice to be able to stack in some extra radiant damage. Before you get access to the Sacred Star, you could use a different weapon like the Blood of Lathander, which is a very good alternative. You could instead replace it with Seluna's Spear of Night, which would be incredibly thematic for this build, because it is obviously Seluna's weapon. You gain advantage on wisdom saving throws and perception checks. You gain dark vision up to 12 meters, which we already have. A weapon enchantment +3, Moonbeam, and Moon Mote. This is a very powerful weapon, but ultimately we are going to go with the Sacred Star because I really like the way this looks, especially when it is all lit up and we are imbued with light, and it really just kind of, it's blindingly bright. It's really cool. We're going to be smacking people with this giant star. And for our shield, we're going to be using the Shield of Devotion, which gives us access to 1 extra level 1 spell slot, so that we have more uses of our cleric spells. Additionally, this shield is going to give us a +2 to our armor class and give us access to Shield of Devotion Aid, which will simply allow us to increase our maximum hit points by 10, which is really nice to have. But finally, for our chest piece, we have 2 pretty powerful options to be able to use at our disposal. The Dwarven Splint Mail will be found in Act 2 from Lantarv and gives us access to Superior Plate. You take 1 less piercing damage Body Aid, gain a +1 bonus to strength saving throws and checks. It will also give us a Constitution boost +2 up to 20, so our Constitution will be raised to 18 to give us a +5 to saving throws and some extra hit points. But the main drawback of this armor is that it gives us disadvantage on stealth checks. If you instead want to have advantage on your stealth checks, you could use the Thought Stealer armor, which can be found at Danthalon's Dancing Axe when you download the Mystic class mod. This armor gives us exotic material, add your full dexterity modifier to your armor class. Additionally, this armor does not impose disadvantage on stealth ability checks. So that gives us the ability to, when we're hiding in our darkness, to just kind of keep stealth going and enemies won't have any idea what's going on. If we're wearing the Dwarven Splint Mail, they will pretty much immediately identify that there is something in the darkness that is firing massive shots at them. But with the Thought Stealer armor, you will be able to maintain your invisibility sort of for longer. Thought Stealer armor also gives you access to Thought Steal. Your melee and thrown weapon and hits sap your target's energy, giving you a +1 bonus to damage rolls and armor class, stacks up to 5 times. You could use this to stack up even more damage and armor class bonuses if you want to, but I ultimately am going to go with the Dwarven Splint Mail. They're really kind of... you can do whichever you want to. I'll show off both in the combat. When all is said and done, we will have an armor class of 23 +1 when we become obscured, which is really awesome because we're going to be very hard to hit and inside the darkness, so enemies will have disadvantage on attacks against us anyway. At this point, we're pretty much rarely going to get hit, and it is going to be really awesome to see as we hide in the darkness and just pass out massive radiant damage with radiating orbs everywhere. But that takes care of all the gear. Let's look at some of the buffs this character needs to be able to make itself stronger. The first buff that we want to do is to grab our Psychic Focus, and we are going to use the Mastery of Light and Darkness to gain immunity to not magical and non-magical darkness. You could replace this buff with the Eversight Ring if you wanted to, but I like having the Ring of Twilight for some extra armor class bonus. We're also going to use Psionic Alacrity to gain the effects of extra attack. If you use this with 5 psi points, it lasts for 10 turns, but if you bump it to a 7 psi point spend, you can gain it until long rest permanently. We're then going to use our Psychic Brand to give ourselves a 19 score in Strength. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I thought I had that turned off. You can see those are the kind of the effects that we can get out of our different psionic surges. Let's see, I'm going to use Chaos Control and turn that off because I do not want to trigger those while I'm buffing myself. So when we use our Psychic Brand to bring ourselves to a 19 strength of score, our animate weapon damage for our general weapon damage goes from a 1d8 +1 to a 1d8 +6 on account of the additional strength modifier that we get access to. Additionally, we're going to use our different Twilight Cleric abilities to give ourselves a, well, if we had allies near us, they would gain the plus 60 meters of dark vision. We're going to use our Vigilant Blessing to give ourselves a +3 initiative bonus. We're also going to use our Strength of Mind buff here to give ourselves proficiency in whichever saving throw we want. I'm going to go with Constitution just because I want to. You can go with Wisdom or Dexterity or Strength, whatever you are looking forward to. And now, because we have spent some psi points, I'm going to use Consumptive Power to gain some back. Since we have the Shield of Devotion, I'm also going to use the Shield of Devotion Aid to give ourselves an additional 10 hit points so that we can regain some of the lost hit points that we got from Consumptive Power. But now that we have completed looking at our buffs, we can go into our Chaos Control and choose how often we want to trigger our psionic surges. Chaotic State Inert will make it so that we don't trigger them at all, while this one, the stable version, will have us at a 10% chance, standard. The active one will have us at our 40% chance to trigger them almost half of the time. Volatile will trigger it at 70% of the time with a DC of 7, and Dangerous is the one that will trigger them all the time. For the sake of this video, I'm going to show you what it looks like when we trigger them all the time. Additionally, this is more of a cosmetic buff, but I have the Glowing Equipment mod, which allows us to infuse our metal armor with glowing light of some sort, and I'm going to go with white to fully become a avatar of the moon so that we can just glow white. But that pretty much takes care of all the buffs and pre-combat prep, so let's pop into some combat and see how terrifying this character truly is. Alright, so we are going to get cracking. We're going to use our darkness spell here to start off. We're going to go into turn-based mode. Actually, I'm going to take a speed potion first. Speed potion? Okay, let's cast our darkness. So you can see we start with a 3-meter radius, then we can pump it to a 6-meter radius, a 9-meter radius, 12, 15, 18, and 21-meter radius. If I pop this out, we can't see this because if you look way back there, you can kind of see those little yellow guys in the back. It is spreading insanely far. This is a huge area. You probably don't want to do this all the time because it will it will make a lot of people hostile to you if you pop them in darkness. So we're going to keep it small and do a little tiny one here. Actually, I mean, this is what the tiny one looks like that. This is good if you're just playing solo, but if you want to do with your whole team, I recommend going for that one, which is still pretty big on its own. We're going to cast it right here. And now we are hiding in darkness. Oh, what was that? We got, oh, that's cool. So our wild psionic surge there just gave us access to bestial speech, can comprehend and communicate with beasts until long rest. We now just have animal speech for today. Cool. Sometimes we get little fun things and sometimes we get crazy shit, so you never know what's going to happen. Now that we are hiding in the dark and hastened, however, we have a +2 to our armor class from the hastened and a +1 from treading twilight, so we have an armor class of 26. Since we are in the darkness, enemies who don't have dark vision or immunity to magical darkness also have disadvantage on attacks against us, but we don't have any of those drawbacks on ourselves. So we're going to start this combat by using our Starstorm, which is our ultimate ability, and we are going to go, "The moon haunts you!" How freaking sweet is that? Oh, that's unfortunate. The moon haunted me, and the moon haunted them, and it also haunted me because I got banished to another timeline for a turn. See, it's full chaos. We got banished to another timeline, so that wasted kind of one of our actions, but that's all right. We're back. Oops. So because we got banished, it wiped out our Starstorm, so I'm gonna cast it again. Wild Magic Surge. Uh-oh! Each creature within 3 meters now has the benefits of Fire Form, dealing 3d8 fire damage to creatures that end their turn within 3 meters of you. So they're going to be dealing massive fire damage. Oh my god, that's absolutely bananas. Okay, let's end our turn. Miss. Miss. Dead. Critical hit. Shield blow. Get out of here, bud. All right, it's our turn again. And we have 2 actions. So what are we going to do? We're going to back up a little bit. We don't trigger opportunity attacks, thankfully. And we're going to use our animate weapon here with 1. We're going to pop this guy. Ha! He got the radiating orb, psionic strike. And we got ogre form. So now we have weapon attacks deal additional 1d4 piercing damage, and melee attack range is increased by 1.5 meters. So it looks like we also gave this guy ogre form, which is interesting. He has fire form and ogre form now. And because we have psionic alacrity, we get an extra attack, which also applies to our animate weapon. So we're going to go ahead and use that with the additional 1d4 piercing damage and pop it over here. And because we triggered the wild psionic surge, we immediately got back our psionic point. Environmental adaptation. What's this one? Immune to acid, wet, burning, and chilled. Okay, cool. Until long rest. Nice. Now let's use our other action. Boom! What's this one? At the start of each turn, lose 2 psi points. Effect is removed at the end of combat. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Well, that's okay. Because combat is about to be over. One more Sonic Surge. Oh, we miniature now. Sorry. This is absolutely insane. It was beyond chaotic. We still managed to kill them all, and what has even happened to us? I have no idea. The moon haunted them. They took crazy radiant damage. They got the I don't even what is it? What even happened here? This is bananas. We're busted. We lost like no health. That's insane. This build is bananas. I love it. This is so much fun, honestly, and the Starstorm is still kicking. We're gonna turn it off here. I absolutely love this build. Let's go try it out on some other enemies, if we can find them. So for this combat, I'm gonna try using the Thought Stealer armor so I can show you what that does. Let's pop ourselves into turn-based mode. We're going to drink a speed potion. And then we're going to put some darkness on ourselves. I'm going to do a little bitty one here. Uh-oh! At the start of each turn, it becomes either hyper or sluggish. Hyper doubles your movement speed and gives you advantage on attack rolls. Sluggish halves your movement speed and gives you disadvantage on attack rolls. Let's see what happens. So let's use our action to get some combat going with these guys. And what do I want to do? I don't want to do the Starstorm again because I just don't feel like it. It felt really overpowered there. Let's do Astral Mote. This is like our guiding bolt. We can upcast it for extra radiant damage. Let's do a 5th level upcast. And let's do it on this guy. Or yeah, let's do it on the mage. Shazam! Luck of the Far Realms, 2. Critical hit, 46 damage. Insta-kill. Ooh, Wild Magic Surge. We become invisible. We were already in darkness, so it didn't really matter that much, but that's okay. We are sluggish now, so we have doubled movement speed, or we have double movement cost, I should say. Let's use our Astral Mote again, but a lower level one on this guy. He saved on it, but we now have multi-attack defense. The fact that entity has a -4 penalty to attack rolls against the ranger it just attacked. Huh? Not entirely sure what that means, but it's okay. Ooh, we also just got Action Surge. I didn't do that. That was a wild magic effect. Let's do it again. Psionic Disciplines cost no psi points for 3 turns. Eureka? Okay. I can fuck with that. They have no idea where we are, to be clear. Oh, well, he does, I guess. It doesn't really matter, though. We are sluggish, so we have disadvantage on our attack rolls, but that is not a terrible problem because we're just going to do this. Hit him with the Radiating Orb and the Psionic Strike. Each allied creature within 9 meters gains Twist of Fate. Advantage on saving throws. Incoming attacks have disadvantage. When a spell or effect would deal half damage on a successful dexterity saving throw, it deals no damage on, so they get evasion. That's okay. We're going to keep doing our extra attacks here. You regain 3 to 24 hit points and are cured from any disease, poison, paralysis, and blindness. Cool. Let's keep going. Each creature within 9 meters gains a regrowth. Okay. Works for me. We still have our extra attack here on our second action, so let's do... Oh, he's hiding. Let's come over here. See if we can reach him without stepping out. No, I don't think we can. So we're going to just end our turn and let it be. He'll come over here. Where are you going, bud? What the hell? Arrow of Ice! How rude. Let's hit him with a Radiant Beam. And I'm gonna do it at 66. Where is he? How do I hit him? There we go. Pacha! He's blinded. Wild Magic Surge. You automatically fail any Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws. You cannot cast spells or... Oh. I have amnesia now. That's insane. Look at all these damn effects. This is absolutely crazy. Let's hope we don't slip. End our turn. He's blind, so he's just running around aimlessly. We can't... Oh, yeah, we can't do any... We can't cast, but that means we can do melee attacks. Psionic Strike. And now he's dead. I really love this build. It's absolute chaos. It's freaking bananas. But still really powerful. That's crazy. It's too much fun. You could obviously turn down your chaotic state so that you're not triggering as many wild psionic surges, because that was a bit much, triggering them like 3 or 4 times per turn. Now imagine that you had a full party of allies and every action they took was also triggering a wild psionic surge. You could just do like crazy effects everywhere. Nobody knows what's going on. It's literally insane. It's too much fun. Too much chaos. I don't even know how to explain it. But that pretty much does it for this insanely chaotic Moon Knight, Lunatic, Selunite, Mystic build. What do you think of this setup? I obviously think it's a shit ton of fun and leads to some absolutely insane circumstances and situations to work around, and it's even lore friendly. I hope you have a ton of fun using this build. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one, Khonshu.